Hi everyone and welcome to the channel, and I'm here for another throwback list video for you guys. Now for this video I'll be going over, in my opinion, some of the best rock and metal albums of the year 1983. Now keep in mind, this is not necessarily a solidified list of the absolute best albums of 1983. I would say that these are definitely some of the best of that year for sure, but some of the absolute best, well, that is debatable, of course. With that being said, if your list is different than mine, that's okay. Just feel free to leave your list in the comments, of course. I got about 6 albums here, and this is in no particular order, so let's go ahead and begin with my list. So I think we'll start off with some Metallica and their album Kill 'Em All, which is, of course, Metallica's debut album. Now, this is not my favorite Metallica album, but I would say it's at least in the top 5. And I think most Metallica fans would have this at least in the top 5. I mean, very rarely will you see people say that this is their favorite Metallica album. I mean, I've seen a few people say that before, but it's a rare occasion, of course. But for the most part, you will see this in a lot of people's top 5 Metallica records, of course, and for understandable reasons. It's not my favorite Metallica album, but I do like it though. I think it's a very good album. It is probably one of their heaviest albums too. You got really great songs on here like Motor Breath, Jump in the Fire, Whiplash, No Remorse, Metal Militia, Seek and Destroy, of course a classic. It's a great song and it's a live staple, of course. So yeah, Kill 'Em All by Metallica, pretty strong album. Next, we got Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind. If you love metal, there's a good chance that you have heard this album, and if not, you definitely need to check out this album. It's a great album, and it probably is one of my favorite Iron Maiden albums, at least in the top 5. Maybe my 4th favorite or something like that. And I am one of those people that do prefer this album to their album, The Number of the Beast, which I know is a rather unpopular opinion since that is one of their most successful albums, one of their most popular albums, but for me, this album has less filler than that album, and I just like the songwriting better on this album overall, and this album just has more songs that I return to more, I guess. This album definitely has some very strong tracks, of course, like Where Eagles Dare, which is maybe one of their best opening tracks. I really love the guitar work in this song, it's just excellent. Maybe one of their best opening tracks. Revelations is also great. Die With Your Boots On. The Trooper, yeah, it's overplayed, but I still think it's a really great song. And then you got To Tame a Land, which is a really good album closer. So Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden, it's just absolutely fantastic. Definitely a great album. Definitely worthy of being on the list. So next, we got Queensryche and their debut EP. Of course, this was their start to their discography. Technically not their first full-length album. This is only an EP. Now, I know some people might say, what, you have an EP on this list? This should only be for studio albums, but you just be quiet. I'm having this on the list because this has some of Queensryche's best material, especially the opening track, Queen of the Reich. Maybe one of the best Queensryche songs of all time. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It's excellent. But you got other really good songs on here like Knight Rider and The Lady Wore Black. Really solid tracks. So Queensryche, I think this EP deserves to be on the list. Yeah, it's not a full-length album, but I think it's very, very good though. And I think, you know, you got to make an exception here. I think it deserves to be on the list because this album, or this EP, is, I would say, just as good as some of their full-length material. So yeah, Queensryche EP. So next we got Genesis and their self-titled album Genesis. Now in my opinion, this is the weakest of Genesis's 80s time. I know that might be rather unpopular because I think some people would actually go with Invisible Touch as the weakest 80s era Genesis album, but for me, I don't agree with that. I really do enjoy Invisible Touch a lot. I even like it more than the self-titled album. But don't get it twisted, I think the self-titled album is pretty good. I mean, Genesis is one of those bands that make little to no bad albums. Like, even the weaker Genesis albums are at least passable at best, I think. Yeah, this is one of my least favorites, but I still think it's good, though. I mean, it does have some very great tracks, of course, like That's All, Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea, Just the Job to Do, kind of an underrated track. And then you have the song Mama, which I know a lot of people like to make a big deal about. A fan favorite from the album for sure. Now, for me personally, it's never been one of my favorites on the album, which is kind of surprising since it is a fan favorite. But I don't know, this song has just never done a lot for me for some reason. I just prefer a lot of the other songs on the album, more than that song anyway. But I wouldn't consider it bad by any means. But yeah, so Genesis, the self-titled album, I think it's pretty good, even though it's not one of my personal favorites from Genesis. Now, some people like to trash talk the Phil Collins era, especially the 80s era of Genesis, because, oh, it's too poppy. They went pop rock in the 80s. And here I am thinking that I didn't know pop with rock equaled bad, you know? I personally don't think that, you know? So I think that stuff kind of gets overlooked sometimes. But yeah, really good album. So next we got Yes with 90125. And to me, this is the best Yes album of their 80s time. I know some people would actually go with Drama as the best 80s era Yes album. But I just have more resonation with this album. I think maybe it's because this was my first Yes album. I'm not really sure what the case is, but this definitely has a lot of really great songs. And this might be a rather unpopular opinion, but this is maybe one of my favorite Yes albums. This album does have some very great songs, of course, like Owner of a Lonely Heart. Of course, this song did very commercially successful. I think it's a really great opening track. Of course, you got other great songs like Hold On, It Can Happen, and Changes. Changes is maybe one of the best Yes songs in the 80s. You also got other great songs like Our Song and City of Love. I mean, really, really good songs. Really good songs on this album. Yeah, this album also has that rock with the cheesiness of the 80s sound, but I really don't care. I personally don't mind that stuff at all. So 90125 by Yes, really great album. Definitely worth listening to if you haven't heard it yet. So lastly for this list, we got Asia and their second album, Alpha. And this is actually one of my favorite Asia albums, to be honest. Probably my second favorite, just behind their debut album. But yeah, Asia, very underrated band, I think. Definitely a band that doesn't get the credit that they deserve, in my opinion. This album, I know some people might say it's one of their best, and I do think it's one of their best. It does have some of their best tracks, of course. I mean, the opening track, Don't Cry, is excellent. Really great opening track. The Smile Has Never Left Your Eyes. Eye to Eye, underrated song. And same could be said about Midnight Sun. Midnight Sun is so underrated. That's maybe one of the most underrated Asia songs. Definitely fantastic. And of course, the closing track, Open Your Eyes, is just, I mean, it's a masterpiece of a song, I think. It's just epic. So, yeah, Alpha by Asia, definitely a very strong album. So this album also deserved to be on the list. So there you have it. That is my list of some of the best rock and metal albums of the year 1983. Let me know what you guys think. What albums would you have on your list of the best of 1983? And what do you think of my list? Feel free to let me know. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Have a nice day and take care.